A new report on food insecurity is released. The name of the report is quite long. This is the entire name actually. Global impacts of heat and water stress. Global impact of heat and water stress on food production and severe food insecurity. On food production, and subsequently it may lead to severe food insecurity. Now, it is not a sudden thing which is going to happen wherein the production is suddenly going to go down or food security is suddenly going to go severe, but it is talking about somewhere in 2050. However, to address the issue which we can foresee into for 2050, we need to start working today. That is why this report becomes very important right now, because if we get this report or we get to know this in 2050, we will not have much time to do anything about it and people would die. So let's see, it's in news because this report has been released. What does it say? It says that it is projected that there would be decline in food production by 2050. Now, it was published in scientific reports. This you have to remember, that it was published in scientific reports. It says that the food production will decline by 2050 under various climate change scenarios. Now, you know that right now also the food production does take a hit because of climate change, right? But at times, some year it is lesser, some year it is more. The El Nino, La Nina effect, the extreme weather effect. Overall, on an average, around the world, there is not as such a dip which will be there by 2040, and it will be persistent, consistent, subsequent year after year after year. And the report also says how much decline there will be area, region, country wise as well. Okay, so what is food insecurity? So first things first, for food insecurity to not be there, that means food security will be there. How can food security be assured? When you have enough food, when you have sufficient food for the required populace. If you have 8 billion population and you have enough food for all 8 billion population to eat 3 times a day or to have stomach full of their food, that is the sufficiency. So that is the physical excess that we would call as the physical excess, that yes, however much amount of food require, it is present. Let's say I require 1 kg of food every day, so 1 kg is present for me, but that is just physical excess. What do I mean by that? The food, 1 kg food may be present in this studio, but I may not have money to buy that food. So if I don't have money to buy that food for me as good as does not exist. So apart from physical presence or physical excess, there needs to be financial excess as well. So understand, it's not just about production of the food, but also the affordability, and hence food insecurity is the lack of reliable access to sufficient, affordable, and of course nutritious food. I cannot have 1 kg of any food which gives me less calorie. It's not just about the calories, it is about the makeup of the calories. What is it made of? How much of it is protein? How much of it is fats? How much of it is carbohydrates? All these things have to be in a balanced way present. That is what a nutritious food is. And then let alone the micronutrients, etc., which comes from fruits, vegetables, so on and so forth. So food insecurity is the lack of this reliable access to sufficient, affordable, and nutritious food. Now, severe food insecurity would be what? When an individual is frequently being without food every other day. Individual frequently run out of food, and hence they are hungry and lack the means to eat regularly. They literally lack the mean to eat food regularly. They may not have food for 15 days of a month, they will not have food every other day of the month, so on and so forth. Frequently they are without food. That is what severe food insecurity means. Now, what are the major findings of the report? The finding says that we saw in the beginning, it mentioned by 2050 the food production is going to go down. By how much amount? By 6 to 14%. It is a huge number. Imagine 14%. 14%. So if there are, let's say by that time, 10 billion people, you can safely say that approximately 1 point, if right now, if we assume right now we are sufficiently producing enough food, right now also people are hungry, but let's assume right now the food is sufficient, affordable. If this is the scenario, still there would be around 1.4 billion people who would go to bed without food. And for how long you can last like that? It would lead to lots of deaths as well. And here I think approximately the same number is also mentioned here. Increase in food insecurity, it will lead to increase in food insecurity, of course. See, insecurity could rise by up to 1.36 billion. So 1.36 billion, roughly 1.4 billion people would be having food insecurity. Now, this is the regional production, food production decline which it has given. So India almost 16% decline, almost 16% decline for India. China 22, highest, I think highest, yes, highest would be China. Then you have Central America, then you have Australia, Africa, USA. So all the major regions are going down, China with the highest. That is why it has also said that it is possible that China and ASEAN would become net importer of food, would become net importer of food. A huge population with 22%, almost 1/4 production decline would lead to China and ASEAN becoming a net importer of food. Okay. Now shift in food trade, of course there would be shift in food trade. China becoming net importer, China and ASEAN could become net importer by 2050. Food price index, food price increases because of reduction in prices, reduction in production. What will happen? The demand remains the same. The demand is growing. It's just that the production has gone down. So when the production goes down, the prices will go up. And when the prices go up, the affordability hampers, which will lead to more people not having food. Right? So 1.4 people, 1.4 billion people were not having food. The others were having presence of food. But then when the prices go up, a lot of people from the remaining population will also not have food because the prices would have gone up. Right? So that is another concern. Now, record breaking temperatures are there. Right? Warmest, every month, every year what happens is this month is the warmest so far. Then next year you will realize that this month is now the warmest so far. So what is happening? Every subsequent year the temperatures are going higher and higher and higher. Right? Again hampering the food security because declining of food production. Very interestingly, if you have to see, because of this increase in temperatures, certain cold regions are increasing their production, but certain regions, tropical, temperate, the production that is going down there is way high than the production increasing in the cold regions. How the production is increasing in the cold region? Because the land was covered with ice. Now the ice is not there. Now the soil is visible. Now you can grow certain food crops, certain crops over there. So slight, let's say, production can increase in the cold region, but every other region it is going down, and the net effect is of that, the decline of the production. Now, other impacts of climate change on food system can be a lot. Number one, of course, is crop production. Right? Now, when how does the crop production impact? It is impacted with respect to the quantity of the produce. Not just that, the quality of the produce as well. Right? And changes in precipitation patterns can result in either droughts or floods. Both the way, it is not a good sign. Either it is flooded and the crops are ruined, either it is drought and the crops do not grow properly. So quantity as well as quality takes a hit. Unpredictable food availability. For food availability, how is climate change hampering? Unpredictable weather pattern disrupt the seasonal food availability. So for a particular, to have seasonal fruits, it's very important, but in different seasons you don't know how the nature behaves, how the climate changes, and what happens. So those particular foods of those particular weather, you may not get it, and then wait again for the next year, and next year again the same sort of thing happens, so again you don't get it. So these kind of things are happening and is only going to increase unless we take certain actions. Food quality and safety, it will not be safe also, right? And food quality will take a hit, because of which food security, when the amount goes down, the prices will also go up, the availability will not be there. So only those who can afford will be having the food, those who cannot afford will not be able to get their hands on the food, right? Then food distribution, food wastage, and ecosystem disruption. So food distribution, transportation routes may be disrupted. So food distribution, the international trade of food can take a back seat, can be hampered. So certain countries which used to import a lot will take a bigger hit, because now the country which was exporting itself has a decline in production, so they will stop exporting so that their own citizens can have the food, and the exports would decrease. Export decreasing meaning the country which was importing, they will not get those import, and they can't do anything because they were reliant on imports. So that is a big concern for countries which are importing huge amount of food, right? Now what are the solutions? Solution is very simple, I would say, as in we know what the solution is. It's not so that way it is simple, but it is not simple because the implementation, the practical implementation is the thing which is going to take cost, going to take time and patience, right? So importance of adaptation, you need to adapt, you need to build the capacity, climate smart agriculture, climate resilient agriculture. At the same time, this is with respect to agriculture, climate smart, climate resilient. At the same time, the industries, the factories, the things that are polluting, that things that are leading to climate change needs to be stopped, and in the meanwhile climate smart and climate resilient agriculture needs to proceed further. Those two prong approach has to be there. It cannot happen that one side we keep on destroying the climate and here we keep on having climate smart agriculture, because how smart will we become? There would come a time that we destroy it so much that no climate smart agriculture is going to help. So climate smart agriculture is going to help, but only up to a limit. So there needs to be a slowdown on the degradation of the climate that is being done by in this Anthropocene era, in this man-made era. So crop diversification, diversification of crops, so as to keep the soil proper, so as to have proper productivity, right? Diversifying crop patterns, particularly towards millets, pulses. Now millets and pulses require less water. Especially millets require less water. When you grow pulses, leguminous plants are there, they help recover the soil fertility. So all these things can be looked for. Adaptation of finance, so finances are required for better production, technological advancement in agriculture for higher productivity. Multi-prong approach, whatever above we have seen, all those things need to be implemented all together at once and have a sustainable food system which is in sync with sustainable climate practices. Now cash transfer for sustainable agriculture can be more effective. So whichever farmers are taking such activities or such approaches, they should be encouraged by having some cash transfers given to them in order to boost such activities, such climate sustainable activities or practices of agriculture. Non-agriculture sector, labor intensive manufacturing services can reduce the pressure on agriculture, especially for smallholders and informal workers. Now this is so with respect to economy, they can make it better. Okay, labor intensive, a lot of labor who are there in agriculture sector are not earning much because of disguised employment, so they can be transferred into manufacturing sector. All those things are there in order for them also to have money, so that accessibility of food, financial accessibility is there for them as well. Strengthening rural MSME and the food processing sectors is a part of the solution. So rural MSMEs and food processing, why? Because when the food is produced, and the farmer sells it, they get some small amount. But if the food is going for processing units, there will be value addition into it, and that after value addition will be sold at a costlier price, so the farmers can get a better return. That is also important. So remember, the solution consists of climate smart, climate resilient agriculture, sustainable approach, adaptability of agriculture, along with increasing the farmers' income, who are the growers of the food crops or any other crop for that matter. So this is the way we can approach. One thing that could be added is we can also work towards climate change mitigation, because simply because we cannot keep on doing these things which are good, but at the same time keep letting our climate deteriorate, right? So along with this, climate change mitigation practices needs to be implemented in order to ensure that there is no decline in food production in 2050, and hence the food insecurity is not there, not just in 2050, but we start addressing the food insecurity issue, whatever may be present right now as well. Thank you.